The night enveloped me in its inky embrace as I gripped the steering wheel, hurtling down the deserted highway. The dim glow of the dashboard lights cast an eerie ambiance in the car, casting fleeting shadows across my tense face. The moon hung low, veiled by wisps of clouds that seemed to dance in rhythm with the swaying branches along the roadside. My fingers tapped restlessly against the wheel, mirroring the racing of my heart. The road stretched out ahead like a ribbon of uncertainty, disappearing into the velvety darkness. The hum of the engine provided a semblance of company, but it was the silence that gnawed at me, broken only by the occasional gust of wind that whispered through the cracked windows. The radio had lost signal miles ago, leaving me alone with my thoughts. Shadows darted at the edges of my vision, playing tricks on my fatigued mind. Each flicker of movement seemed to conjure nightmarish figures lurking just beyond sight. My own breaths echoed in the confines of the car, a reminder that I was both the hunter and the hunted in this nocturnal expanse. The clock on the dashboard read 2:34 a.m., the digits glowing like phantom embers. I cursed under my breath, wondering why I had taken this shortcut through an unfamiliar stretch of road. The trees lining the highway swayed ominously, their branches scraping against the car's exterior like bony fingers seeking entry. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end as I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Suddenly, a pair of headlights appeared in my rearview mirror, a solitary beacon in the distance. My grip on the wheel tightened as the lights drew closer, casting long shadows that danced and merged on the asphalt. Panic knotted in my stomach. There was no reason for another car to be out here at this hour. Not in the middle of nowhere. As the vehicle gained on me, its headlights intensified, blinding me in the rearview mirror. My heart raced as I struggled to maintain control, my mind racing with thoughts of all the unsettling stories I'd heard about late-night encounters on desolate roads. My foot pressed down on the accelerator, urging the car to go faster, to escape whatever presence was behind me. But no matter how fast I went, the headlights remained, an unrelenting pursuer. My breaths grew shallower, my pulse pounding in my ears. My hands were clammy on the wheel, and I could feel my resolve slipping away. I stole another glance at the rearview mirror and saw a silhouette within the glaring headlights, a figure that seemed almost ethereal, like a specter from a forgotten nightmare. In a moment of desperate clarity, I swerved off the road, my tires kicking up dirt and gravel as I careened onto a rough, overgrown path. The pursuing headlights followed suit, the car behind me seemingly undeterred by the treacherous terrain. My heart hammered in my chest as I pushed the car to its limits, branches scraping against the sides, and the undercarriage bouncing over rocks and ruts. The forest around me grew denser, the path narrowing until it felt like I was driving through a tunnel of trees. Just as I felt a spark of hope that I might lose my pursuer, the path abruptly ended in a clearing. I skidded to a stop, my heart sinking as I realized I was trapped. The headlights of the pursuing car flooded the clearing, revealing a faceless, dark figure behind the wheel. My breath caught in my throat as the figure emerged from the car, stepping into the pale glow of the headlights. Time seemed to stand still as we locked eyes, and a cold, sinking feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. Without a word, the figure began to approach my car, their steps deliberate and unhurried. Panic surged through me, and I knew I had only one choice. With trembling hands, I slammed the car into reverse, spinning around and accelerating back the way I had come, not daring to look back. The world outside became a blur as adrenaline fueled my flight, the pursuing headlights fading into the distance. I drove on, the night seemingly endless, the darkness my only ally. The haunting encounter left a scar on my memory, a chilling reminder that some roads are better left unexplored in the depths of the night. The night wrapped around me like a suffocating shroud as I gripped the cold steering wheel. The moon's feeble glow barely managed to pierce the thick veil of darkness, casting unsettling shadows that danced on the edges of my vision. The road ahead seemed to stretch into infinity, a narrow strip of faded asphalt disappearing into the abyss. I could feel the weight of the night pressing down on me, every passing mile increasing the knot of unease in my stomach. The hum of the engine was the only companion I had. its monotonous rhythm playing a haunting melody in the silence. Raindrops splattered against the windshield, distorting the feeble glow of the streetlights like ghostly apparitions. My tired eyes strained to pierce through the murky gloom, searching for any signs of life. Each flicker of movement at the edge of the road sent a jolt of fear through me, only to reveal a harmless tree or a road sign. The air inside the car felt heavy, laden with an unspoken tension that seemed to seep in through the cracks in the windows. Time became a blur as the minutes stretched on. The dashboard clock glowed in a dim, blood-red hue, 3:17 a.m. I cursed myself for choosing this desolate route, a shortcut that now felt like a descent into some kind of nightmare. Every rustling leaf, every distant creak, sent my imagination spiraling into a whirlpool of terrifying scenarios. The radio crackled to life suddenly, its distorted sounds cutting through the silence like a knife. I jumped, my heart racing, as whispers emerged from the static. The voices seemed distant and fragmented, like echoes from a forgotten realm. My clammy fingers fumbled with the radio dial, desperately trying to silence the unnerving voices. But they persisted, their indecipherable words crawling beneath my skin. My foot instinctively pressed the brake as I scanned the road ahead, my gaze flitting nervously from side to side. The world outside had transformed into a twisted canvas of shifting shadows and lurking fears. Every curve of the road seemed to lead me deeper into an abyss of uncertainty, my headlights revealing nothing but an endless expanse of darkness. A sense of dread washed over me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. The confines of the car suddenly felt claustrophobic, the interior a prison that trapped me with my own escalating terror. A lone figure appeared in the distance, barely visible through the rain-smeared windshield. My heart raced as I approached, the silhouette becoming more defined. As I drew closer, I realized it was a hitchhiker, standing at the roadside with a heavy duffel bag slung over their shoulder. My instincts screamed at me to keep driving, to ignore the impulse to help. But something compelled me to slow down. The hitchhiker's face was hidden beneath a hood, but I could feel their gaze boring into me. In that moment, time seemed to stretch, and I had to make a choice. The rational part of me screamed to drive past, to flee from this unknown entity in the night. But a darker curiosity took hold, and before I knew it, I was pulling over, the hitchhiker's figure looming outside my window. With a trembling hand, I rolled down the window, the cold night air rushing in, carrying with it a sense of impending doom. The hitchhiker's presence outside my window sent a chill down my spine. The hood concealed their face, casting their features into shadow. Raindrops trickled down from the edge of the hood, splattering on the window pane. My grip on the steering wheel tightened, my heart racing in a chaotic rhythm. "Need a ride?" I managed to croak, my voice betraying my apprehension. The hitchhiker didn't respond immediately, their silence stretching into an uncomfortable eternity. Just as I was about to roll up the window and speed away, the figure slowly lifted their head, revealing eyes that glowed like twin orbs of amber in the darkness. A jolt of terror shot through me, freezing my limbs and locking my gaze with those eerie eyes. The silence persisted for another agonizing moment before the hitchhiker finally spoke, their voice a soft, chilling whisper that seemed to echo from the depths of the night itself. "Going my way?" they asked, a sinister undertone lacing their words. I hesitated, my instincts warring against my morbid curiosity. But before I could respond, the hitchhiker's gaze seemed to pierce through me, a cold sensation crawling up my spine. It was as though they could see into the deepest recesses of my mind, uncovering secrets and fears I had buried long ago. With a sudden surge of fear, I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, the tires screeching as the car shot forward. The hitchhiker's hooded figure receded into the distance, and I dared a quick glance in the rearview mirror. My heart pounded as I realized they hadn't moved in ChatGPT inch. Their eyes still glowed in the distance, a haunting presence that seemed to linger in the rearview mirror, refusing to fade away. I sped along the winding road, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, my pulse racing like a runaway train. The engine's roar drowned out the pounding rain, but it couldn't drown out the memory of those glowing eyes. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Was I losing my mind? Was it some kind of hallucination brought on by exhaustion and the oppressive night? The road ahead seemed endless, a dark tunnel with no end in sight. Every shadow seemed to hold a secret, every rustling of leaves a potential threat. I stole glances at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the hitchhiker's figure suddenly reappear, closer than before, defying all reason and logic. I blinked hard, trying to shake off the dread that had settled over me like a heavy blanket. I needed to find a well-lit area, a gas station or a diner, somewhere with people. Somewhere that would erase the memory of those glowing eyes and the haunting whisper of the hitchhiker's voice. My tires screeched as I turned onto a more populated road, relief washing over me as I saw the warm, inviting lights of a 24-hour diner up ahead. With a trembling hand, I parked the car and practically stumbled out, my legs feeling like jelly. The diner's interior was a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness outside. The smell of coffee and sizzling bacon filled the air, and the hum of conversation created a comforting backdrop. I sank into a booth, trying to steady my breathing and convince myself that what I had experienced was nothing more than a trick of the mind. A waitress approached, her friendly smile doing wonders to ease my nerves. As I ordered a cup of coffee, I couldn't help but glance out the window, half expecting to see the hitchhiker's figure lurking in the shadows. But the street outside was empty, devoid of any ominous presence. As the minutes turned into hours, I nursed my coffee and stared out at the night, lost in thought. What had that encounter meant? Why had the hitchhiker targeted me? The questions remained unanswered, and a lingering unease settled within me. When dawn finally broke, the first rays of sunlight painted the world in soft hues of orange and pink. I paid my bill and stepped back outside, the memory of the night's events still fresh in my mind. The hitchhiker's eyes haunted my thoughts, a reminder that darkness could hide unimaginable secrets, even on the most familiar roads.